Slater. Here. Kathy McCoy. Present. Shaw. Here. John Morgan. Here. James Sullivan. Here. Matt Hill. Here. Thomas Beckman. Chris Paulson. Here. Dan Bisnet. Here. William Edward. Here. Jim Maxson. William White. Here. Ron Casey. Don Ruckles. Helen Dennis. Here.
Motion to
human services board members that need to be reappointed?
Yes, in May of 2019, certain terms expired, and all three have agreed to do another term on the Health and Human Services Board. Dale Schleer, Rose Gilkey, and James Schweiger.
Oh, okay.
Just now.
I don't trust that slender guy.
Right, oh, Mr. Bassett. Motion to approve all three as presented. You good with that, Mr. Bassett?
What?
Your motion was for all three.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. Kinsley. Motion carries. Welcome aboard. Chair report. Mr. Buckles.
The Novus program, scanning old sanitary, continues. We're looking to continue project for another 3+ years to eventually scan all building permits. May need to increase the budget. Several other ordinance changes coming to the county board in the next few months. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buckles. Any questions or discussion for zoning? No, if not, then we'll move on to number 8.
Tiger Cat Cam bids, the cost came in about, came in, our share about $80,000 over the budget, and we'll get to that.
To adjust the budget. And the is, as you can see on page 8, the staff recommended that we quickly look at 700 square feet of the property. We applied, I think, 85 after the tax force. Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson.
McCoy? Yes. Schumann?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
Schlemmer?
Yes.
Yes. Duffy, absent. Paulson?
Yes.
Isnett?
Yes.
Knight? Yes. Bassett? Blake?
Yes.
Kinsley?
Yes.
Buckles? Dennis? Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
Number B, Mr. Paulson.
The next item is the review for a resolution. Mr. contacted me, he was doing some more research on it, and he would like this resolution postponed until the next meeting.
Mr. Hoyle?
Make a motion to postpone the winter depot resolution to
It'll be next month.
One month, good. Mr. Bassett? Second. Okay, got a motion and a second to postpone the winter depot resolution to next month's meeting. Any further discussion?
Can I
All
ask
those in-
why that is?
Mr. Buckles?
Why are we postponing that?
Yeah, we've been working with the DNR and the DOT. We had a brief introduction to this last month, I think, when we talked about the winter depot, which we haven't talked about for a while. Sawyer County is the project sponsor on a TAP grant for that project. That's the renovation of the winter depot down there. We've had considerable discussion with the DOT, who the money is, the federal portion of the money is coming from. Mike Keith and I did a lot of reconciliation.
Need to get down. The other is, the project model, the friends of the Tuscobia Trail need to cover the remaining cost that isn't covered by the federal funds. That's a project that the bids came in at about $417,280,000 to renovate
that building. And so the construction dollars that are left leaves the Friends
postpone, does that mean that we have to keep this on this current agenda?
Not without another motion. We just do both.
I'm just, I didn't get dressed up for nothing. If we're gonna eat, we're gonna do some work.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? I've got a motion and a second to postpone the winter depot resolution for 1 month. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
I'm gonna
carries.
call for a roll call vote, but we're not.
Okay. Number C.
Okay, number C, the finance committee met just before the board meeting. We wrestled with the resolution to issue debt, for the ambulance garage. We finally voted, that we would authorize up to, $590,000 of debt to be issued. The budget we have is about $400,000, and I guess I'll turn it over to Mr. Hoff to talk about the budget excess and the ins and outs.
Yes, one of our favorite projects, the Ojibwa ambulance facility. After much discussion with public safety and public works, getting to this point, public safety came to the conclusion that Ojibwa was the site. We worked with public works with the building. We had originally estimated 2 or 3 years ago a cost of $400,000, which now that we've let bids and got a construction bid back, we're in the we're far exceeding our $400,000 number. So that is cause for concern as far as the cost of the building is much more than we anticipated. There are some things that we can look at to reduce some of those costs, but that'll take some negotiation. What we have in front of us today is a resolution to authorize the issuance of debt. So if we do enter into that construction contract, we do have the funding associated with it. So this resolution addresses the fact that we could issue debt if in fact we proceed in that fashion.
Mr. Hellwig.
Is that because of the materials are going up, or is there something that is added, or how come the costs are going up so much?
Alright, so, the initial resolution that's in your packets, the, amount was showing a cost of, I believe, $620,000. So that was arrived at. There's been some invoices we've already paid on this project for lot improvement, site preparation. So about $77,000 costs we've already incurred. The bid was let out. The bid came in at about $490,000. There's some costs we still need to incur in addition to the bid. There's still some highway site preparation fees we need to pay. Cooper Engineering is kind of overseeing the project now, and we still have some costs to put a well in. So that adds up to about $623,000. Finance committee met before the kind of board meeting this evening, and they agreed to some deductions that I would guess I'd let Sam explain what those were. But it's about $33,000, which brings the amount that we're requesting in the new resolution to not to exceed borrow amount of $590,000. You want to address the differences? What we originally budgeted was $100,000.
Originally, if you go back, this has been
number of years evolving, and, originally, when we started to get our, we were estimating what the cost of the building would be. There were a lot of portions of the project that we were planning on self-performing, and since that time, we've experienced some staffing challenges and some different things like that, and so now where we're at today, the only thing to be self-performing on this project, other than highway, doing the site, completing the site preparation, is the, finding and maintaining the drywall. And so that added into the cost, and then also, just the climate we're in right now for construction, costs have gone higher, materials have gone higher, so that's kind of where we're at today.
So Tim, where's the 32,000 come from?
We could see a potential savings if we were to, right now, remember the building is designed to have 3 drive-through bays and, very large parking lot to accommodate the current radius of the ambulances to use the drive-through bays. And so we could, see a substantial cost savings to potentially eliminate, modify the building to eliminate the back doors and, grass the back of the building, the parking lot instead of paving, so we kept the parking lot now. Some savings. And there also could be some other savings throughout the project.
So Tim, you feel pretty confident that 590,000 then gets it done?
Yes.
So then you would edit this resolution to read, authorize it not to exceed 590,000 general obligation? Yes. So no, is that correct? Any further questions for Tim? Jack?
You're gonna lose the ability to drive straight to the building?
Yeah, if we wanted to save, costs on the building, then they would do the same as they do here to Hillary and that's the building that we turn around and back in.
But we're not doing that, right?
Not as the building is,
Thank you.
Mr. Buckles?
That $32,974 is a big savings. We do not need that drive-through bay. All the rest of these buildings, they're backing the ambulances in. They also can do that, no jibble. If we can save that amount of money, we need to save it.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
I just wanted to be clear on that, because Tim said that currently looking at doing it, if we did it, then we gotta be back up to 622,000. Yes. Because we're taking the deduction of all the, so that would not go with the resolution we were talking about. I agree with you saying, I think it's a bad thing, but you're saying, I want to be sure that, like you're saying, that currently, we're gonna do it. But in all actuality, if we're gonna go with the resolution, it says we're not gonna go above 590,000, we can't do it. Yeah, totally. Just
Alright, I will tell them, that's okay, Mark.
Okay, it's not just the 32,000 some dollars, that's just for the doors in the back to drive through. If we went with that, we would also then have to blacktop, correct?
correct, we have to drive through.
And you're talking $130,000 for that. 153 now?
I think you told us 135.
I'd like to, ask the
No
board.
question,
Mr. Chairman and, council members, I'm Nicole Hakevich with Cooper Engineering, and I've been working with Tim on bidding the project, and we just got the bid last week, and I've been talking with him about potential savings, so, could you repeat the question, please?
If we went with the drive-through, okay, the doors in the back, we would also be blacktopping them.
The
And
back.
at Public Works, we were told it would be around 135,000
for that blacktop?
That's actually for the whole, it's the driveway, it's the site prep, the driveway and the asphalt.
Okay, so, but we would actually be saving more by not doing any blacktop back there. Correct?
We would save about $26,000 to take the back of the building and have it grass instead of blacktop. In addition, there'd be some
And then there would be the savings on
the
the doors.
doors and the lips of the doors.
So let me clarify the board. So the 590 is not a true figure that if we make those changes, is that what you're saying? It is.
It is.
590 includes just grass in the back and not a drive-through with blacktop.
Correct.
Okay, I gotta look at it.
We're gonna issue general obligation, we issue bonds for this project, is that correct? That's a general obligation bond for the roads.
Yes.
So to me, that indicates to you what,
It's not, we're not gonna go up for bond.
Okay.
We're actually looking to go.
I just needed that to see.
Gail Schlitter.
The figures that you're using, you kind of did look at them already? Yes. And that's where these figures came from? Yes.
Well, partially, the bid was for 490,000 and, a little more than that. But that, we haven't had any kind of talking with the one bidder that we had, because you can't do that at this point, so we're basing those savings off of an estimate that Cooper Engineering put together. So if we would go ahead with the project and we go and we execute a contract with this contractor, then we could sit down with them and talk about eliminating the back pavement and the garage doors and potentially some other items on the building to save some money. But right now, those are estimates, because this was bid as more of a lump sum project, so I don't know exactly what their fees were for asphalt, but I can tell you that, breaking down the schedule of values, they were very close to our estimate for the site work, so.
If the contractor who is involved in this project disagrees with us, we have no recourse.
Well, that is a good point, the contractor could say, no, I'm not gonna do that. I don't think they would, but, I believe the contract would be terminated at that point. But there would be probably a clause, I don't know, maybe Rebecca could talk to that.
I'd like to know that before I vote in favor of this.
Do you have a comment, Rebecca, on that, please?
Yeah,
my firm did prepare, some of the initial contracts, and I'm just gonna go off the assumption that they were used. The documents that I prepared and I'm familiar with were used, so if there's any changes, just please let me know. But, in the standard contract, the county has the right to terminate if it so chooses. Whether the contractor has a right to terminate, there would have to be some sort of material change in conditions. So I don't know if you're referring specifically to a change in price or, another situation in which the contractor could terminate.
Very much so that we said that now we have to negotiate with the contractor who is involved in the contract and see if he will agree with our figures. And that kind of sent the red flag in my mind. What happens if he doesn't agree with our figures? That is my question.
Well, if that contractor doesn't agree with your figures, then the county will essentially be terminated. Because the contractor is saying, I don't agree with this and I'm going to pay this. The other issue is if depending on how much the terms have changed, you have to make sure that you comply with the bidding requirements as well, under the statutes. Let me get you the answer.
Kathy?
I'm just gonna say that, you can do change orders to contracts, and I think that's what we're talking about here, basically, is that there would be a change order, you know, to different parts of the contract that hold the contractor in with it's kind of common in construction, that's a big concern. My biggest concern here is that we're borrowing enough money, and I don't wanna give us a license to borrow too much money, but consistently, we are always under budget, over and over and over again. And I would rather see us budget on the high end if we're gonna take out a loan to do this, and have some money left over. Whoa, that would be just tragic, wouldn't it? For instance, having to come up with, out of our general budget again, another $20,000 or $30,000 that we don't have. So I'm in favor of eliminating what you're talking about now, but I'm not in favor of, based on some, well, we think we can do this, we think we can do that, borrowing less money and having it come back and be a problem later on. I'd rather see us go with the original resolution, borrow the money, and if we have excess, then we can deal with it at that point. I just don't want to.
Is that your motion then, Ms. McCoy? Okay. Mark?
I'm just curious, Tim, you're saying, well, then we could also possibly do some other things, when we, well, as we're building it. I just don't want these other things to take away from the original plan per se and, you know, affect the building, I guess.
Right, and again, those are things that until the contracts are awarded, we wouldn't be able to have that conversation. But it was just.
Mr. Schwann?
So how is this coming back in front of us? I mean, I understand that we have to amend the budget to pay for what these changes are, but I remember at public safety, wasn't there a discussion about a second bathroom? So are we gonna come back every month with, as we get farther in this construction, with one more thing and then one more thing and then one more thing? Well, no, I'm curious, because this whole Ojibwe thing was on our agendas even before I got elected, so we're 4 years into getting really close to coming up with this great idea of what we're gonna do about ambulance service for the county. And so now we're coming up with this idea that we need to fix the back door, blacktop the road. Why is that not contemplated in the original proposal?
Mr. Hoff?
To address your first question, the reason that, this is on the agenda today is because we do need an initial resolution to issue that. So that was the purpose of the resolution. When we opened the bids last week, you know, there was some sticker shock. And so we started to think about, you know, knowing that the board is gonna.
Kathy?
I would like to make a motion to approve the original resolution as it was presented to us, for $623,975.
Mr. Howard?
I'd like to second that one.
Got a motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing not to exceed $622,975 general obligation promissory notes from the Ojibwa ambulance facility. Any further discussion, Troy?
I do have one question. Is this with our procurement procedures, is the second whereas still necessary in here? Because this is just, it's in the original one as well. So my question is, since this is just the debt resolution, are we approving bids also this evening? Because that's not on the agenda, is Tom, or do we, okay.
Well, it is noted in there, we don't have to award the bid, we follow the procurement process. It was originally budgeted, this takes care of the rest of the budget, but, you know, we stuck that line in there because we do, we want to talk about this, and we passed the resolution because approve the bid as well, if you want that line in.
Mr. Kingsley?
I have a question, board members. You're gonna approve $622,000 when we initially authorized $400,000. When need to put that in the taxpayers back, pay for that, and then soon, potentially, we could be putting up a second courtroom, and you're gonna put that on taxpayers back, pay for that. The way the ambulance is set up right now, it's not a perfect situation, but you know what, it's working. Why spend this extra money on this? That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender.
So I would add a little bit along with what Mr. Kinsley had said, is that this has been an ongoing, ever-evolving mushroom cloud of obscurity and opaqueness in terms of how we're dealing with our ambulance center. I just hope someone gets it built so that we don't have to talk about it anymore. And as to the second point, I agree in principle with what Supervisor McCoy is putting out here, in that I would assume that the second resolution that we were going to consider was to be the proof to the people who pay attention to our meetings and read these minutes, make sure that we're doing our fiscal best to spend every single penny as we can, as best as we can, so that there's no overage or no waste. The flip side of that is that if we approve this resolution, and I would encourage everybody to approve this resolution as it's presented, is that we have a responsibility to provide these services. And so I don't disagree that the taxpayers are the ones that bear this burden, but I also agree that the taxpayers should have an expectation that services are going to be provided, and that if we don't do this, we can save ourselves the penny wise and dollar foolish kind of idea that, look, we saved ourselves $30,000 by passing the second resolution, but then we're going to come back again and again every time that we underestimate or underbid something, and we're going to come back and we're going to look like we're foolish when we have to, do these amendments to these other actions. And so let's just take care of this one. We are going to come back in 6 months or a year on a second courthouse, and the reason why is because buildings don't last forever, and services don't last forever, and we don't last forever. And so we need to start investing and looking towards our future, because not only do we have a responsibility to the taxpayers right now, we have a responsibility to those future taxpayers that we have operational services for them going forward. And even if we have to pay for that now, think about this as an investment for your grandchildren. If you're going to look at your grandchildren and say, I want to save this extra $10, and I don't want to, I really am interested in what your future is going to look like, but I need to take care of, make sure that my money is spent safely now. Think about it like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Troy?
Just 3 things. We've already spent money on this. We're already invested in it. I think further delays could end up costing us even more a year from now. And the third most important thing is we have 2 committees that have already wrestled with this and come up with the best solution that they thought possible. And I really think, as colleagues, we should trust the work that they put in.
Thank you. Kathy?
I'd like to say too, just because we're authorizing that amount, I think still should be encouraged, public safety and public works should still be encouraging to do these changes or facilitate change orders to that contract if it's approved to reduce the costs as possible. I don't think anybody in this room is saying, don't do that.
Okay, currently I have a motion by Ms. McCoy, seconded by Mr. Howard, to approve the resolution authorizing not to exceed $622,975 general obligation promissory note for Kiowa Ambulance Facility. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I think you need one, 3/4 vote. Maybe roll
Roll call, thank you. Carol?
Okay, we start with Kathy McCoy.
That's one more question, sir. What kind of interest rate you're looking at?
4%. Okay, one more, Ellen?
This is for my friend, Mr. Hall. Would we be safe at $590? What are your thoughts on going with $622?
Yeah, I think the safe route is the 622, and if we can negotiate, changes that get us down to a different number, then we're good. McCoy said, come up short, we're coming back, and beyond. So I think the direction that we would go under, that would, make any suggested changes that still work for the building and do it at the lowest cost that we can to have a
building that suffices and is functional.
Okay, Brian?
Just so I'm clear on this, when we put out the RFPs, we only had one contractor putting in the bid.
One contractor did it.
That kind of worries me because we're taking the bid of one contractor versus putting it out to rebid, see if we get other contractors and get the price reduced that way. Just,
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I have a motion, Tom. I have a motion, and a second.
I am adding the same concerns as Brian about this too, and have had all along, with the one contractor. We could pass this resolution, doesn't necessarily tie us to that single contractor, or could it be put back out again? I mean, we're just assuring that the financing is gonna be in place.
Mr. Hopper.
That is correct, unless you don't take out that whereas clause. You're reviewing and approving bids. But Nicole maybe could answer the question as far as, the process that went through and why there was only one bidder and what we did to try and get more bids in. Nicole?
Right, what I've been hearing around the office and with other engineers in the office is that, we're running into this on a lot of our projects where we're getting less bidders than normal and prices are coming in higher. Tim and I really tried to shake the trees and get some contractors to bid. I contacted 3 other people that could do this and 3 of them told me that their schedule was full for the year. There was one other general contractor that took out plans, and when I called them, they said the same thing. So we really did try to get the word out about the project and really try to encourage people to bid, but we ended up with one bid. Another, prices are high this year and contractors seem busy, so to speak a little bit about rebidding this, Tim and I talked a little bit, and I don't feel that if you didn't accept the bid and rebid it, I don't feel like you would get a better price this year. And then you're taking another gamble for, well, let's bid it next year, it might be better, and that's a gamble and a risk. And prices seem to go up every year. Contractors could be slower, so maybe you get more bids and be a little more competitive. Unfortunately, the environment right now is that contractors are busy, and again, we're running into that on some of our other projects at work also.
Thank you, Nicole. Wayne?
So this resolution does approve this bid, according to the whereas, the second whereas.
Yes, no? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, he said yes.
I just wanna make sure everybody understands that.
Thank you. I gotta go with Mr. Bassett.
And this is starting to scare me over here. In land and water, we got, excuse me, sir, we got 2 bids for the Tiger Cat dam. And the one was almost double what the other one was, simply because they would have to rent the island, hold the water back. Okay, thank you, yeah. Anyhow, I don't know. I mean, that was $400,000 difference between the 2 bids. I find myself wondering if we should go out and, rebid it, excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schleider, and then we'll vote.
So I would say that, we were to be glad we got 1 bid, rather than being worried about we didn't get 3. Because one of the things that's going on right now in this county is everybody's busy and they're working. And so not only are we gonna deal with higher costs if we rebid it, but we're also looking at delaying the project probably until next year or the year after, before we can get another firm in here to, meet our penny wise or dollar foolish approach in terms of trying to scrimp and save. So we either want this facility rebuilt or we don't.
Okay, I have a motion from Kathy, second by Mr. Hellwig, to approve the resolution authorizing not to exceed $622,975 general obligation promissory note for Ojibwa ambulance facility. This is a budget amendment, so we'll have a roll call vote. Carol?
Okay, start with Kathy McCoy.
Yes.
Reed Schumann.
Yes.
Troy Morgan.
Yes.
James Schlunder.
Yes.
Mark Howard.
Yes.
Bruce Paulson.
Yes.
Brian Bissonnette.
Yes.
Elaine Nyberg.
No.
Jim Bassett.
No.
William Boyd.
Yes.
Ron Kinsley.
No.
Ron Buckholz.
Yes.
Helen Dennis.
Yes.
General numbers, we have two things. Oh, Mr. Slater.
Oh, I have to go back to the top of my list.
Yes.
So we have 11 to 3.
Pass.
Needed
Tom?
Reporters.
3/4.
11 out of 15 is 27, 3.2.
Okay, so motion fails.
I believe it's a membership, not those expenses.
Motion fails. Okay. Are we correct with that, Rebecca?
Membership or?
Yes, it's 3/4 of the membership under the statutes. So it's 3/4 of 15, not 3/4 of the member.
You said that.
Okay, so motion fails. All right, Bruce, we need to go on to number D.
Right, the next item is a resolution to support the distribution of Indian gaming funds. If this passes, that would mean the county would get an extra $125,000, and the town in which the casino is, resides would get another $125,000.
Correct, and this resolution is presented in support of this, bill amendment at the state, and I spent last Thursday in Madison, lobbying with other county board chairs, some tribal government leaders, and we are all together on this. This is the state is projecting $2.5 million increase in gaming compact dollars that have come to the state. That's their projection. So the State Tribal Relations Committee would like to funnel that money, that excess money, to the 10 counties and the townships that are contiguous to the tribal headquarters within those counties. And Mr. Paulson is exactly correct. It would be $125,000 to the county, and then they would divide $125,000 amongst the townships that are contiguous to the tribal reservation. So they are all in support. I think we are the 7th or 8th of 10 times pass this resolution in support. Any further discussion? Kathy?
I would move to approve the resolution.
Mr. Howard? Oh, Mr. Bassett?
So does that mean that the township board?
We gotta get a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Paulson got a second. Go ahead, Mr. Bassett.
So then, do I understand this right? If the township borders the town of Hayward, then one of the contiguous, you
The
got a
reservation to the tribal reservation and the casino.
So if a board chair doesn't understand what contiguous, can it go to the next county that understands it?
Mr. Hoff, did you ever write that? Mr. Howard?
Could you explain the contiguous of that?
It's where they border the reservation line. The townships that border the reservation line. All right, I've got a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number E, Ms. Schwartz. Spending priorities update.
Okay, I think the county administrator has included this, in his, report, and he was gonna cover it at that time, if you're okay with it.
No? Okay with that? Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce. Yeah, well, Mike was working on some priorities and listing some ideas for each department. And then we were gonna bring the county board together and do some strategic planning and list some priorities, so that during our budget discussion, we would have a finer pinpointing where we need that address. And we're not, Mike, do you wanna comment on that we're not quite at that point of your process?
So, yeah, we're, that,
For show only.
so the plan that we come up with, what we're trying to do is, we're asking the departments to go through and identify what programs or tasks do you do in the department, and identify them. Then we're going to allocate their budget into those programs, so we can kind of get an idea of what each program costs, kind of the net cost is. If we bring in revenues, we'll reduce it, right, kind of get a net cost. Then each program is gonna go through a scoring mechanism based on attributes we give them to score the programs. Then Tom is gonna go through and meet with all the department heads and review the scoring to see that he agrees that we have some reason to score the program. And we're gonna kind of break, based on the scoring, we're gonna kind of break the programs into quadrants. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. Quadrant 1 being mandated, very important, have to do it. Quadrant 4, not mandated, something we're doing, may or may not continue to do it, it's just, you know, it scores votes. The idea is we'll look at those items that score in the lower quadrants to see, you know, is there more efficient ways we can do the projects? Should we continue doing the projects? Those kinds of things. We're at this point, we're still getting some of the, I call it an inventory from the departments, their list of projects, we're still waiting to get some of them back. We are starting some of the scoring now with some of the departments. I believe, talking with Tom soonish, we're gonna start meeting with the departments for the scoring.
So we have a department, director meeting next week, where we'll, talk about it as a group and then meet individually with each department as well.
One, I want to applaud you for that effort. This copy is huge. This has been an ongoing issue for us as county board members, and it seems like every budget exercise we invent a new method in how we decide these. And I remember one of our permutations was to have public hearings so that members of the community would have either the ability to understand what our spending priorities were, to chime in as to what they thought were priorities. And then I remember we not doing that because we felt there wasn't enough participation. And I gotta say that if we continue to, one, I appreciate this because it gives us a formula for people to see and understand how the department develops these budget requests. But I still think that we need to make sure that we always include, even if they decide not to participate, some kind of public hearings so that everyone has a chance. So I think it's disingenuous for us to say, we're going to be careful with their dollars, we're going to be careful with how we spend it, but yet we don't give them any input as to what they think is important in terms of how we're going to spend them. So it's kind of, if we're going to err on the side of caution in terms of how we're going to incur debt, and also not include them in the discussion as to what we're going to spend it on, I think that's a major conflict. So we had, a couple of months ago, talked about this meeting. I still think that we need to have this meeting, and I hope it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of trying to get these things done. The other thing I want to remind this board is that we have not yet met in winter, and we still have other townships and other municipalities that exist in this county that I think ought to be given an opportunity for us to come there, because I'm sure they'd participate if they could afford to come. So those are the things I would say.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Howard.
Just a couple of questions. You mentioned scoring. Who does the scoring?
Well, initially, the department head is going to go through and score their programs, each of their programs. And then there'll be a review process to determine if scores are reasonable.
And my second question is there a deadline to get this information to you?
Well, I don't know that there's a deadline per se, but I do think, you know, like Tom mentioned, next week he's planning to have a some staff meeting, department head meeting. Move it along.
And by scoring, we don't mean, just a random score, there's attributes that will be scoring on, like, is it mandatory, and that is a score, and the other attributes, so it's kind of it's not just subjective, there's an objective attribute tied to each one of these things.
I also want to agree with Mr. Saunders that, this is a great idea. I'm glad you guys are doing this.
Thank you, Mike. Okay.
Is this information, once it's done, that it could be used to present to the public, to get public input then back? In terms of, if they agree with the story, or if they think this is different, or, it could be used in the public format, I guess.
Well, I think it could be beneficial just from an information point of view. I'm not so sure about the scoring aspect of it. I'm not sure if the public would know about what's involved in each of the programs, because it's the attributes they're scoring on. Is it a mandate? What population of the citizenry is served? They're just, some of it's objective, some of it's not.
It just might be nice though, if that was information that could be presented at a public meeting, like, Mr. Steve was talking about, it's talking about.
Not nearly as good looking as.
In terms of maybe not necessarily for them to score it, but for them to see it.
Certainly.
Yes, so that they would know, this is what we're looking at and why we're prioritizing this, and then for them to make comments. But part of the problem with the meeting we had before is there was no format, nothing to look at. It was kind of like, what do you think's good, what do you think's bad? This obviously will have a format where people can actually see what's happening.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for the people to see what the products do.
Okay, I think all this information and comments are good. We did have a meeting in Windsor, and there were quite a few people there, but they had no clue what they were supposed to do. No clue at all. We went there thinking they were gonna tell us what was important to them, where they wanted their money spent, etc. We assumed that. We didn't fill them in. So it was rather disappointing.
Thank you, Elaine.
I'm really fortunate that I wouldn't have to wait for the scores, because I don't have enough information, don't have enough knowledge to be able to indicate what, but if the public were able to pick out and say, this is what's important to them. This score might be dropped off, it might be something that's no, but it might be something that is more important than we realize. So maybe it would be good to be able to point it to the public, whether it be a survey or some kind of informational meeting.
I agree, thank you. Right.
You can call me Miss Snyder.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right, we'll move on to number 11. Kathy, Open Human Services Chair Report.
I just, a couple things,
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 10, Public Safety Committee Chair Report.
We don't have any agenda items, Mr. Chairman, this month. However, we have a new ambulance in service. It's equipped with a new auto-loading cart, prevent injuries for our people. And each of our new ambulances from now on will be equipped with that added feature, and I believe that's about a $30,000 or $40,000 item. One other thing that was mentioned is sometimes we have a poor attendance by our department heads, and we asked Tom if he could address that at his monthly meetings with his department heads, so we could possibly get a better turnout. It doesn't occur a lot, and I'm not browbeating on any of our department heads. However, we'd like to encourage them to try to make our meetings if at all possible. And as far as criminal justice,
We met on the 6th, September 6th,
We are continuing forward, we're working on, trying to assess the bail bond testing. We're also working on programming. There's been some advancements in terms of electronic monitoring to help with the jail population. And, we're working on programming comprehensively so that people who are coming back into the community or once they're released from incarceration have some job skills. And we've had a couple of success stories. One person has been hired to work with the Senior Resource Center. And so we're making progress. It's been program.
All right, now we'll go to 11. Yeah, Health and Human Services Chair.
I just wanted to say the 2018 annual public health report is out. That's from our public health department. It's an annual report. I would encourage everybody to go on the county website. It is a little hard to find, but it is there. And it's just a great report. It gives you a great overview of what public health does and how important it is to our community. I think you'll be amazed at all the programs and things that they're involved in. And the other thing we're working on is trying to identify or figure out when we have transport issues with juveniles. Other counties that are in our Oasis facility, whether the county of jurisdiction should be paying or whether our county should be paying if there is transport issues. Trying to come up with something that works for everybody with our sheriff's department to see if they would and actually, our county. So that's being worked on.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, then moving to number 12, Public Works Chair report. Mr. Kinsler?
Public Works met on May 8th. We do with maintenance, I believe, said they have 80% of all the LED lights in place now, so they continue to work on that. I think they do a good job, and we're so thankful they don't have to shovel on their snow runs. Highway Department, they're continuing to work on the roads. Highway Commissioner informed us that over the next 7 months, they'll be having 4 key personnel retiring. Just hoping to replace them for, but again, we're reviewing all positions like we should. And Airport has a 6-year plan that's coming forward that we need to go through. We have to have a public hearing next month. And if I may ask, can Derek speak quickly the 6-year plan that we have to put together, but maybe a little short, please?
You bet.
Right, Derek.
Rattle off a few things about the 6-year plan.
6-year plan, Sawyer County gets a certain allotment every single year from the federal government. It's passed out to Congress as part of transportation funding for airports across the country. Part of every time the county takes money from the federal government, they have to assign grants and assurances. Part of the grants and assurances are that Sawyer County every year undertakes its 6-year improvement plan. Basically, it's the state's way to make sure that the county's involvement can continue at the airport, that they're looking at things like the pavements, runways, needs at the airport, things that are upcoming that are important, that they're staying on top of it. So right now we put together our 6-year improvement plan as well as a petition, and we put an Excel spreadsheet out for our projects for our next 3 or 4 years, and what the costs are associated with that for the important things at the airport, things that are going to be coming up in the next 2 or 3 years. Really is important. So we got that, and hopefully next month, in a couple of weeks, we don't have any problems have an issue.
Thank you, Derek. Also, I'd like to add that we are continuing to negotiate contracts with LNL. Get a contract on us there.
Mr. Flanagan.
Mr. Kinsley, I have a couple of questions that came up from various people, and I'm wondering how do I get issues or items put on the public works agenda? 2 questions. One is something to do with highway H and either repairs or usage or something that happened with some of the people that have driveways connected to highway H. And the other one is notice about some repairs, and maybe an update on repairs. This has to do with highway E, south of the intersection of K. There's a corner, right on the corner where there's a sinkhole, and a couple of people have had some exciting moments is that road, because they closed off one side of that road, and there's no warning. So people got some surprises this morning. They got 4 calls. So how do I get that on there so we can get some word out to everybody?
First step would be to go to the administrator and we pass the word out to the highway commissioner to see if they can resolve it. If not, then after that, maybe.
Mr. Bassett.
Mr. Kinsley, do you know when that bridge on C, the one just 100 feet off of 2770 could be replaced?
No, I do not at this time, but I can certainly find out.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kinsley. Okay, moving on to 13, Economic Development UW Extension report. Mr. Morgan.
We met on May 6th. Thank you again, Ms. Kozak, for joining us this evening with the Economic Development Corporation. They held their placemaking event on this past Tuesday, the 14th. It was extremely successful. I'd like to thank our colleague, Mr. Paulson, for being instrumental in helping to get that accomplished. Also to our county administrator, Tom Hoff, and our county clerk, Carol Williamson, for attending. There were over 60 people there. On the 2nd of May, the Hayward City Planning Commission reversed their prior decision and voted 7-0 to approve the downtown Hayward Business Improvement District. That's in its 30-day commentary period. Businesses have until June 1st in order to oppose that. If it does not meet the 40%, then it will go to the full city council on June 10th. The farmer's market is going to be back in its traditional place right next to the old Northern Lights Co-op. They're doing a fundraiser for a storage building. Hayward Lakes is going to 13 sports shows this coming year, and they were awarded a St. Croix River Steward Award for their promotion of the Namakagon River attraction.
Wonderful, thank you, Joy. Mr. Kinsley.
Mr. Morgan, the farmer's market, they told me that they want to move to Saturday, they were supposed to get on Monday. And I have not made contact with Ben Fox, and they possibly use that parking lot, but on the main intersection, they might have better rock there, but I don't know what they have to do to use that, maybe like we look at one. And also, a real when we open, also make 200 roofs.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll.
Ms. Snyder.
Troy, do you have the date for the hazardous waste collection?
I believe that is the 27th of July. Sorry. No, it's right here. I'll double check on it and get it up, but I'm not fairly sure it's July 27th.
Thank you.
Mr. Bassett.
How come you're not taking paint this year? That was a big popular thing, people.
That I do not know, but I can certainly check. I know there was a reason, I just can't remember it off the top of my head.
Okay, because it was really a nice program, and I mean, we stacked that trailer up 3-4 gallon buckets high, and over a couple of months, 99% of it disappeared. It was great. But anyhow, thank you.
You got it. Mr. Howard.
Can I answer your question, Ron?
Yes.
The Surrey County's clean sweep will take place on Thursday, July 25th, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Surrey County Playground. 3 to 7 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
And also, they can go to any of those locations that are listed on the UW Extension website. It doesn't have to be at that one or on that day. If you're in the area, you can go to Spooner or other locations as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. All right, then moving on to number 14, County Administrators Report. Mr. Hoff.
We'll talk about some of the things in the report, but I'll get on some of the other highlights. The posting for the zoning administrator position is out. We've got a deadline for next Friday, accepting applications for that, so that's out there. I had sent out an email previously about Edmund's request for a second judge. There's a different bill that went through in addition to the state bill that we saw earlier. So there's a couple of things out there that are requesting a second judge for Sawyer County. That one is specifically for Sawyer County. The original bill included all the other counties that needed additional help as well. I agree with the placemaking exercise. I think that those that attended found it
enjoyable, and we had a lot of good conversation, and, we'll see what comes of it. I understand that there's gonna be another meeting kind of refining the ideas that come out of that, so we're kind of excited to see, anything that comes out of that, so that was good. As we noted, our negotiations with the airport and trying to get that contract renewed. We had discussions last week, again, today, actually a couple times this week, and meeting a special public works meeting next Wednesday, to further move that along. So that's progressing. Been dealing with some issues and concerns and ideas with LCO on various things, including child support, and there's some health and human service things going on. So we're meeting with the child support person tomorrow morning, I believe, and we've had some discussions regarding some other issues too, so we're taking care of those. Train people, we did talk about that, I guess. Meeting with the Berkey, there was a meeting on Monday that I attended out at the Double Building, to talk more about, that was kind of the Berkey folks talking about their vision and mission, and whatnot, but, we're continuing talks with, John and his crew with, the Double Building and the use of that building and establishing, an MOU. You know, we've got an MOU with the Berkey, but it's not inclusive of that building, because the building came after that MOU, so. There were some issues that came up this past winter as far as retail sales of that establishment and some other things that we need to address. So we're working on some ideas that will come forward to the board about that. The contractor that we're working with on the court-related space planning, Venture Architects, will be here in June. We had some discussions with them back in April. We're putting some things together, and so they'll be meeting with staff again on needs and traffic flow and that sort of thing as far as the functionality of the space that's needed. And then we will initiate a discussion with the Public Works Committee that day as well, to kind of coordinate that together to start discussions with board members about what's coming down the pipe if in fact we do get to the second certificate. No word on the lawsuit with Mr. Gilbert Rasmussen, still waiting on outcome there on the dismissal. Budget stuff's going on at the state level. There's been, I think, first, WCA has a Monday morning kind of update, so if you get the WCA emails, real link, and then you can listen in on any status changes that have occurred each week as we go through. Budget planning, we talked about that. Have any other questions or comments about anything else? Anything thoughts as well?
Mr. Flanagan. So we have talked continuously now about Pipestone Tower road maintenance. What is the progress on addressing those concerns?
Nothing since we talked the last time. Really get hard from highway at that Sanchez met with people down there. They got some information back to me.
With education, the rest of the committee, we have a road that is currently impassable, and it has a tower of which almost all of our law enforcement, emergency services, road, everything else that communicates, I don't know if it's the tallest part of the county, but that tower, when it doesn't work, it has a noticeable impact on the radio communications between everything that operates within Surrey County. There seems to be a dispute as to who has responsibility for maintenance of that road, and I think that this board needs to take an affirmative step to help with fixing this road. It's going to be an expensive issue. Again, the safety concerns should be something that outweigh the budgetary concerns that come in place there. And I'll bring this up again in public safety one more time, and if not, I'll bring it up to the county board, and then we'll start keeping it down on some other issues.
Yeah.
I just wondered, I noticed when Berkey signed the agreement with the other organization for $1 per participant, have they paid?
Might be no.
Our question was the Berkey, they signed an agreement, got a forestry, just like everybody else, for use of the event. And on there it states that it's dollar per participant, just like every other organization, and they paid for all of the events that they've had this year. The other groups have. So is that an issue we should be doing something about legally, because we're continuing to enforce a thing, it's on this agreement they signed, they saw it, I mean, and we're having other groups that are doing this, why aren't we collecting that money? It's not that we don't need money at this point, you know, it just seems unfair, and if they're signing an agreement and it says right on there $1 per participant, there's no reason we shouldn't be collecting that money.
Mr. Paulson.
To the best of my knowledge, other than the brick itself, they have been paying their $1 a person. We track that, forestry tracks that and has receivables.
But that's, I think that actually puts us on very shady legal ground, to be honest with you, and maybe that we could address this issue where we're putting this in agreements with people and when we're doing, collecting from some and some we're just choosing to turn a blind eye. At the very least, then we should be making some type of a motion that they are exempt and we're not gonna collect from them, because I think it's problematic, especially when they sign an agreement that very specifically states that we don't collect those fees.
Ms. Snyder.
Mr. Morgan, the town of Sand Lake sold a piece of property to an entity to build a senior center.
I'm sorry, but.
The town of Sand Lake.
Oh, to an entity.
To an entity, for the purpose of building a senior center.
Cool.
Have you heard when they're going, this just happened in the last month or so. Have you heard when they're going to break ground?
Help me out with this one. I think they're planning on having it ready, for occupancy actually this fall. I think it's September 1st.
I heard on the radio, today at 11, but when I drove by, there were bulldozers sitting there. Is groundbreaking just the shovel?
It is just the shovel. Yeah.
So it's
I
not,
wasn't able to make it down there.
so it's supposed to be up and running
This fall, I believe their target date right now is September 1st.
Thank you.
You do that.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson.
That issue is on the zoning committee to get a conditional use permit to permit them to construct the new senior center.
Thank you. Okay, Tom, you have tentative 2020 budget preparation timeline.
Yeah, showed that before, a few comments, we talked about the budget, the process a couple of times here, but, one of the things that we've been talking about is public input, and keep in mind that we do have, committee meetings where each department reports to their committee, and we will be discussing budget issues, and that will be a publicly noticed, committee meeting and addressing the budget of each department. So there is opportunities there too for the public to voice concerns about budget issues that affect those different things. And also at the county board, between now and November, we'll be talking budget. But in addition to that, we discussed that idea once we get this information put together, we might have a special meeting that's got some more substance to it. We'll figure that in as well. That's the schedule that we're running on currently.
Okay, Kathy.
Could we, as a county board, even tonight, schedule a meeting, when is this, prioritization in each department going to be completed? And could we schedule a meeting as a county board so that we at the very least can review that? It sounds like it's going to be quite a lengthy thing because there's a lot of departments. And I think it would behoove us to schedule that special meeting and put some timelines to it as soon as possible because we're already going to hit June.
Thank you, Kathy. Do you feel like it needs to be a special meeting to go over that? Okay. All right, Tom. Mr. Schlunder?
Two of them. We did two of them a couple of years ago. I think we need to start creating some consistency so that our citizens have an opportunity to prepare themselves rather than just show up on the day of like a parade and expect them to be ready to jump in. I think we need to get the word out. I think we need to coordinate with, you know, the local newspapers to try to get this out so that people have an opportunity to be informed and have participation. Again, if we're going to be responsible for their money, and if we're going to act fiscally responsible in spending their money, it's only fair that they have an opportunity to participate in the, I don't know, the priorities of that budget.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of having another meeting down in winter. I think we need the spending priorities to be published, and the board to get a look at them, and the public to review them prior to the meeting so they can come prepared. So I think, Tom, you and I can look at some dates. We're in June, July here. Mike, you want to weigh in at all when these might be done, these priorities that you're looking at?
It's at least a month. We still gotta go through the scoring and meeting with the departments.
Tom, you're gonna meet, you said with the directors, but we got a better idea than anything.
Well, I mean, the board can schedule a meeting if it's so, and it's up to your timing or schedule as well. But, we're looking at it again, just it's a lot to do.
Mr. Buckles.
Just looking at a timeline for the meeting in the winter, I'm looking at like January, December, January?
Winter months.
Winter months, so you guys can drive down there when it's 40 below for us coming up here.
We're gonna meet down there again, as long as the summer goes.
I just had to say that, just because.
Mr. Bassett.
I just hope and pray that this time when we do this study and find out what programs are at the bottom of the list, this board follows through on it. Thank you.
Yes.
I would just like to know where are we with the Ojibwa ambulance resolution? It failed, but where are we? Mr. Hoff.
Well, we are not allowed to issue that for an ambulance building, so we can enter the contract for an ambulance building that we are not funding.
I'm sorry, but we've been working on this long before it came to this board. We decided we paid someone to inspect Ojibwa. We paid that person, we paid another person, Ojibwa was the place. And now the site has been somewhat ready. And we're sitting here and we can't do anything. I would like this to go back to public safety and then next month back to the full board. I think that when a committee is in charge of something like this, that these board members who attend this meeting need to understand that we've worked diligently on this. We've done a lot of research, and for me, it's kind of a slap in the face. It's like our committees don't really mean anything. So why haven't?
I'd like to make a motion, for reconsideration and approval of the resolution to finance the Ojibwa, ambulance garage for the $682,975.
Point of order, I do believe a reconsideration has to come from one of the members who initially voted against it. You make a recognition.
Thank you, Troy. Mr. Howard.
I'm totally with, Supervisor Dennis, everything we're doing, we've done a lot. I'm just curious, at this point, people have said, no, what are you asking for? What do you want from this to get resolved? So we can go ahead with this. It's just, at this point, it's ridiculous that we have done everything we can. We've already made decisions. We've already put money into it. then now we're gonna say no to continue. I really wanna ask on that. Just for somebody.
Well, I would, respect everyone's ability to speak what they want to, and if they said no, they said no. That's what the whole idea of democracy is supposed to be about. I will say that, I do understand, and I voted no, was it last month or the month before, and I promised the committee chair that I would come to the meetings, participate as a, as an observer, because I do respect the work that the committee is doing. And if I'm not informed about how I want to take a position, I stand by what I have to do, because I have an individual responsibility for my district, and it does come to the county board. And so, I understand your frustration. I share the same frustration on some issues, but I've also stood opposed on some of the issues as well. And I would not want people who are not in agreement to be ostracized and kind of be highlighted. I think we need to respect what their decision is, respect them for what they're doing, and and if it means more work, again, we didn't get dressed up for nothing. This is our responsibility.
It is a board chairman, and I would open the floor for any of those that voted no on the resolution for reconsideration. Is that closer than this morning?
That's correct procedure. It certainly does not require anything. Quote.
It's also not on the agenda, so.
The motion to reconsider does not have to be on the agenda. I don't think it's an unexpected point.
Thank you. Again, anyone that voted no on our resolution for the ambulance truck wish to reconsider.
The only thing I would add is we already know what the county administrative reports are kind of like over the place there. Are we in the other matters for discussion?
Oh, we're still, Mr. Hoffman has.
Well, I'm pretty much done. I did forget one thing, though, be on vacation, more.
Yeah, I got an issue with that. Don't you get some weekends off, and what's with this extra daytime time off?
I get some weekends off.
Thank you. All right, then moving on to number 15, other matters for discussion only. Mr. Flanders.
So, I attended a public event, and the public saw me there, and I got some questions, in which Mr. Kinsey asked us questions regarding some of our highways and some of the advertising in terms of letting for public safety. The other thing I was made aware of, and I need some direction on this from the committee, is what is Namakaga Transit, who does it report to, and who's in charge of that, who's the chair of that committee? Because it's been brought to my attention that some of the drivers do not drive to certain villages within the reservation, and that if they do they have designated spots, and there's either minimal assistance or no assistance for some of our elderly who rely on the Namakaga Transit for transportation, and that the routes are cumbersome in terms of, if you're gonna get on, you're basically on all day until you get to your spot. The reason why this came up to me, and the reason why I'm actually kind of involved is, there was I think he was either a Korean War veteran or a Vietnam veteran, someone who was unable to walk and wasn't able to make the bus and wasn't able to get assistance. And I got a little bit of a problem with that. And so this is going in front of the Travel Governing Board, because and I think this is joint funded between the tribe and the county for the Namakaga Transit for services. But yet, if the only municipality that's being serviced, because when I looked at the map, it doesn't even look like it goes to Winter, it doesn't go to Stone Lake, it doesn't go to any other parts of the county. So if it's only Hayward that's actually benefiting from that, then we need to, I'm asking. I don't know. This is what I got. And so I had no answers, and so I promised him I would bring it up. So you can expect me to come to the transit meeting, if I find out where that meeting's at, and I'll raise those questions then. But I'm telling you, right now, I got these questions, and I owe it to them to make a public record of what they told me. And so I'm saying that if we need to figure out some way to make this transit more responsive to the people, because that's also tax dollars that are being spent. And if we're not helping them, then why are we investing, $300,000 or $800,000 or whatever the budget amount is We can't go to Uber or pay someone else to start driving back and forth.
Yeah, well, Mr. Buckles with that.
Mr. Saunders, to your question, Mr. Truman is our board chair. I also sit on that committee, and also Ms. Snyder. I guess if there was an issue, I don't know why it wouldn't have been called into our director at Transit and see where it went from there. And if it couldn't be resolved there, then it could be brought to the parking board.
I didn't know. So when I was asked, I didn't know how to respond. So I'm here to bring it up and here to ask, when's the next meeting so I can be there so I can bring it up there?
June 13th, right?
Yeah. Just wondering, we had a meeting today. We also had Mr. Don Carly and Marie Tegendahl from the Coudray that are on board. And we have a very progressive board, as you said, Ms. Snyder sits on it. We meet once a month. Next meeting is June 13th.
June 13th.
You would certainly be welcome to contact myself. I'll put you on the agenda with all of us with concerns. On what Ms. Snyder does.
Mr. Saunders, I think there's also a gold stock series, and I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Something kind of similar. I've had several phone calls, complaints about our ambulance service. And I don't want to go into all the details about it or what happened, and we had to do with transport. But our inability to provide transport, and things were said that were not good. I guess my question is, when people call like that, you know, there's two sides to it, and I'm very much aware of that. Do we have some process by which people can actually file a complaint with the county?
We have complaint.
Do we still though? I mean.
Oh, we have.
We've had them a long time ago, but I mean, so something like this, I could actually say, you know what? You have an issue, you know, there's an avenue, there's a process to go about that, so that every little time that somebody calls, like, in this case, or in this case, you know, whoever talked to the ambulance director about one specific thing, that is something you can complain about.
One of the things that we were testing this week, there's a component on our website that allows kind of activities, so we can testing that and see if we can do anything like that.
We hope they apply.
Okay. Any other matters for discussion only? If not, I thank you all. We are adjourned.
Yep.